How would you like to increase team performance without hiring or firing anyone else? So my goal is that you know that there's a new way to lead during these times when most leaders have remote teams and most people are very distracted. So if you're frustrated or at the point of burnout and wanting to have hours in your day to actually work on your business rather than just in your business, and rather than trying to figure out how to increase performance per person, then stay tuned. So my name is Birgit Kamps, and my clients frequently call me the human X-ray machine for my ability to quickly discover leadership blind spots in lightning speed. Other than that, I've also been a founder. I started and sold a Inc. 500 fastest growing privately held staffing firm, as well as a best place to work in Texas. I'm also a board member, and thanks to my parents moving us around to various countries, I had to learn 5 languages by the age of 10. And that's a little important point because later on you'll understand why that gave me a huge competitive advantage in terms of understanding how to increase team performance. So I've done a lot of things right. I've mentioned, some of them right now, and I've also done a lot of things wrong. So early on in my career as a leader, I actually thought I had to do it all by myself and that I was the only one who could do it. And with that kind of attitude, I actually almost had burnout to the point that it cost me my health. So the other thing that I learned early on was I didn't realize I had ESP communication. So in other words, I was expecting people to know what I expected of them and frequently forgetting to make that clear or communicate clearly. And then the other thing was I thought that, the client is number one, and clearly we can't, have a business without our clients. Having said that, I did not realize the gap between treating my client as number one and treating my internal team members, especially, my leaders, leading people, as my number one priority. So after leading for 20 years, I realized increasing team performance is not just about hiring or firing to try to fix performance. It's also not about making the customer number one. And it's not about motivating with carrots and sticks. So what I mean by that is I used to think that if I paid them an extra bonus, that they would perform more. And if I indirectly let them know if they didn't perform well, then their job might be at stake. That's pretty much how I was led, and that's the only way I thought you should lead, except for it wasn't working. So I discovered this the hard way, and hopefully you now get to benefit from it and have it be the easy way, because the hard way was I ended up paying, recruiters a bunch of fees to quote unquote find the right person before I had a hiring process. Then I spent tons of money and time going to seminars learning how to lead better. And then I spent a lot of time in meetings, meeting after meeting with consultants, with my team members, just trying to figure out how to motivate people to perform better. So if you want the easy way that increases team performance, then let me share with you that in the past 12 years, I've quickly increased team performance and didn't even have to work that hard. So results are not typical in the sense that usually my clients come to me and say, fix my team. And clearly there's lots of things that can be done to increase team performance. But the ones that excel in their results are the ones that are also willing to look at their part of the equation. And either way, I have helped tons of clients, and you'll see some of the testimonials in the next few slides. But let's start by having me share with you the 3 secrets that can quickly increase team performance, even within 7 days, if you choose to apply them today. So secret number 1, clarify the top 3 priorities with specific by-whens. And you may think you're clear, but if you go and ask your leaders what they think their top 3 priorities are, you might start to see some gaps in that. And I'll go into it in a little bit more detail in the next few slides, but let me just cover the basics of the 3 secrets. So number 2 is discover your leadership blind spot. And I will say that that is probably the single fastest way to increase your team's performance. So I hope you're willing to test that. And again, I'll talk about that in a bit. So the third one is co-create solutions to increase performance. And the co-create part is really key. So let me go into it a little bit more detail. So secret number 1, to clarify your top 3 priorities with specific buy-whens. The whole basis of that is to set people up to succeed, because by default right now, people are actually set up to fail. People are distracted, and you may be distracted. There's, if you're having a remote team that you have to lead, it becomes really challenging. Then you add to it the new workforce and different values, different ways of working. It just becomes extremely challenging for you and them to succeed. So an easy way to start to make quick progress is to just check in and see what is the gap between what your priorities are and what they think the priorities are. The easiest way to do that, of course, is to set buy-when dates to it. The other thing that I have the advantage of in this case, and you may too, is that I spoke several languages and still do. So I happen to know that English does not equal English. For example, when you say soon, that can mean different things to different people. I had a client who was at the point of actually firing someone who used to be one of his top performers. So he calls me in, he's like, I'm going to have to let her go because she just hasn't been performing. So I said, okay, well, you're right. Having said that, are you willing to have one more conversation before you choose to do that? So thankfully he was. And I said, do me a favor and ask this person what they think their top 3 priorities are, given everything that's on their plate. Of course, as you can imagine, it was quite different from what his priorities were. So I had already prepared him. If they're different, then please ask this follow-up question, which is, okay, since you have so much on your plate and I'm asking you to do a lot of things, how do you know when something is a priority to me? And so that's where, one of the biggest aha moments came, because he would say, I need this soon. And she thought soon meant in a week or in 2 weeks or up to her discretion. And she assumed that if he would say, if he needed it right away or needed to be a focus, he would actually say, I need this today by 2 o'clock. And anything else was up to her to decide. So they made a new agreement going forward, and to do, also frequent check-ins when things change, because in this environment, things change frequently. And that was part of the issue in the past. She could pretty much tell what was a priority, but with so many changes and him constantly, throwing a lot at her because the team is now leaner, it caused a lot of confusion. Secret number 2 is discover your leadership blind spot. I mentioned earlier, this is the single fastest way to increase team performance within 7 days if you're willing to ask for feedback. So mine was, not realizing that I was treating the external client as number 1 and giving them all my time, whereas my own leaders could hardly get a hold of me and didn't make them feel good, and demotivated them. So that was mine. I have a client that when I first started working with him, thankfully he was willing to start off the process by discovering his leadership blind spot. And he'd had a lot of turnover. Well, he discovered that his communication style was causing silos rather than a team environment, and that people didn't feel safe to speak with him and to say anything that was going on or why they were having issues. So new agreements were created, and that client completely transformed, and the team became high performance, and in fact is now triple the size that they were and have, had several awards. Secret number 3 is co-create solutions to increase performance. Note it says starting with their idea. And why is that so important? So keep in mind that what people create, they own. So in this case with the client, the performance had been steadily declining, and they thought it was because of COVID times. And although that's probably true with a lot as people get adjusted, it had been long enough now to kind of question what was going on. And so he went to his leaders and said, look, I've noticed we've had a steady decrease, a steady drop in our team's performance. And this needs to be fixed. I don't want to lay off any more people, and we need to fix this. What can we do? And so what they came up with is apparently one of the challenges was that people were getting interrupted all day long now with texts and emails and, different people and then their own families and all that. So the team came up with a solution, which was to have focus time, where they managed everybody's expectations around during, between these 2 hours, we don't interrupt each other. Then someone else also said, look, a lot of hours are being spent gossiping because we don't know how you view things and what changes are coming up. And we spend a lot of time in Zoom meetings, but not really productive. So they actually re-looked at their meetings, and now they have a monthly, what they call State of the Union meeting, and then a daily 10-minute check-in. This is, of course, separate from the meetings that the leaders have with each other. But the thing that happened is they led it, and now drastic increase in performance. So here are some specific results that you can actually see. So this one client, they transformed by discovering 3 things, which ended up giving them one of the best places to work for, as well as one of the best CPA firms. So how did this client go from being burned out as a leader to having breakthrough performance teams? Number 1, they clarified priorities. Number 2, we discovered leadership blind spots. And number 3, they co-created new performance agreements. I have other clients that one of the things they valued the most was getting hours back in their day through my effective leadership blind spots delegation formula. Anyway, so you can see here that she talks about how not only did they raise their performance to the next level of excellence, but they saved hours in their day. That's Vivian. And then you could see that with the president, that he said that it helped make him more aware of staffing decisions. And there were some insights he discovered through this process as well. And not only did they succeed, but they actually expanded. There are other clients that, they really valued time, and they spent millions of dollars investing in others. And they really valued being able to discover blind spots and lightning speed. Most leaders are pretty smart and savvy, so it's usually just an issue of a blind spot that you don't know that you have. And so in this case, you can see the earlier statement. He calls me a human x-ray machine for discovering blind spots and lightning speed. And I've got a private equity client that would not make a decision on investing money until, we have talked through what the expectations are and if someone can actually meet them. So in the last 15 minutes or so, would you agree that this was time well spent? And you can probably imagine that I can't cover everything you need in this short training, even if we had all day. So given the current challenging times, and given that you are unique as a leader, I have a special offer so you can get what you need to know that is unique and specific for you to experience a quick increase in performance. Of course, I know that old habits are hard to die, and you might be so inundated and burned out that it's, you may want to continue doing what you're doing. So keep in mind that if you don't change, nothing will change. And I really want to help you. And I hope that you prioritize yourself. Earlier, we talked about setting your team up to succeed. I really encourage you to set yourself up to succeed. So by the mere fact that you're still listening, it tells me you are ready and the time is now. So my offer and my invitation is that you book a call with me. And when you click on the link, there'll be a couple of questions so I can be better prepared to serve you and quickly add value. And by the end of our call, we'll both know whether it makes sense to proceed or not. And either way, I will give you a free, effective delegation framework that you can immediately put into practice. So choose yourself and click the button below.